The following program is a production of HEW Entertainment and contains views, opinions, commentaries, and content that may offend some subscribers of this show. Listener discretion is advised.
It's that time once again for HEW Entertainment Radio.
And that's all I got to say about that.
Hosted by Jonathan Clarke.
The beat! The man! You gotta beat the man! Woo!
Be sure to join us in the live chat room during the show.
Hulkamania is running wild like it's never ran before.
Call us on one of our request lines. If you live in the United States, call us at 1-641-985-7800, box number 3729280. If you're from Canada and would like to call us from 1-647-724-4194, box number 3729280. Long distance charges may apply in some areas.
I've been the world heavyweight champion 10 times.
Or you can always drop us a line at MySpace, myspace.com/HEW Entertainment.
And you will rest in peace.
Emailing us works for you too. Email us hewwrestling@hotmail.com.
I am a wrestling god. JBL.
And now, without any further ado, here is your host of HEW Entertainment Radio on the official website of HEW Entertainment, Jonathan Clarke.
The champ is here.
Streaming live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. HEW Entertainment Radio is inviting you to comment on our video blogs, join the conversation, and like us. So what are you waiting for? Log on and listen now. Don't miss out on any of the action. Download our app on the App Store, Google Play, and the official website of HEW Entertainment. Once you download and install it, you'll get caught up on news, YouTube videos, and more. Download it now. Fighting evil by moonlight, winning love by daylight, never running from a real fight. She is the one named Sailor Moon. She will never turn her back on a friend. She is always there to defend. She is the one on whom we can depend. She is the one named Sailor Venus, Sailor Mercury, Sailor Mars, Sailor Jupiter. Secret powers are so new to her. She is the one named Sailor Moon. Fighting evil by moonlight, winning love by daylight. When the sailors got to help fight, she is the one named Sailor Moon. She is the one named Sailor Moon. She is the one, Sailor Moon.
No matter what it was that stood out about this TV series, the friendship between the Sailor Scouts or the romance between Sailor Moon and Tuxedo Mask, Serena and Darien, it was a TV series that so many people instantly fell in love with and still talk about as their favorite Japanese anime, as the shows were referred to back in the 90s. It was the most popular Japanese animation of that era, and I know I promised to get around to talking about it on my YouTube channel at Jonathan Clarke 22, and I didn't know when I was going to have time to do it, but I thought, why not this this week. There's no better time to be talking about Sailor Moon because it's still popular in the new generation of fans of Japanese animation who still talk about this one. It's amazing how many people still have the Facebook graphics, the Twitter backgrounds of Sailor Moon in 2015, probably even more than what we had back in the mid-90s when this show was a mega hit for Japanese animation, without a doubt. The most popular Japanese animation series of that era and that time frame. No matter what age demographic you were talking about, the ages ranged anywhere from 4.5 years of age up to about, I'd say, 25, 26 years of age, or even older when it came to Sailor Moon's fans. There were so many Sailor Moon fans out there. It was unbelievable. So many people had so much Sailor Moon merchandise. Virtually every piece of Sailor Moon merchandise you could get your hands on for young girls. The Halloween costumes of your favorite Sailor Scouts. Of course, that was the name of the group from the series. They did such a fantastic job. There they all are there. Sailor Moon leading the group. We have Sailor Mars, Sailor Mercury, Sailor Jupiter, and Sailor Venus. A total of about 5 or 6 Sailor Scouts, and we had so many obstacles for the Sailor Scouts to have to overcome in that series that we saw from episode to episode, season to season. One of the longest running animated shows when you're talking about Japanese animation in the 90s. I used to love watching that. The Power Rangers, everything that used to air in the 90s. Rugrats, Hey Arnold, some of the shows that come back to mind when you're talking about TV that was animated back in the 90s. But Sailor Moon definitely carried all the animated shows we saw back in the 90s, especially when you're talking about Japanese animation. And as I mentioned, I can't get over how many people still use the Sailor Moon Facebook backdrops or the Twitter backdrops of Sailor Moon or any social media network you're talking about. It could be Snapchat. It could be something like Instagram. People are always using the Sailor Moon themes for their accounts, and that just shows how many fans of Sailor Moon still exist out there, which I know are still out there. Now, who was your favorite Sailor Scout out of everybody that you saw on that show? Mine was always Sailor Venus, probably because of the attitude of Sailor Venus, or just because she had a cat like Serena did when she was Sailor Moon in the first few episodes of Sailor Moon, when the friendship was actually examined between herself and her talking cat, when she discovered her cat could actually talk and discovered her powers and her destiny, of course, tied into the moon and all the other planets of the universe, which each individual Sailor Scout were eventually named from and got their powers off of. But the one that stood out to me the most was Sailor Venus. Now, we didn't see the introduction of Sailor Venus until about episode 30 or 35 in the series, and that really depressed me because we didn't have as energetic of a Sailor Scout before Sailor Venus. The only one really who stood out in the group for her energy and just her disagreeing with a lot of things and not getting along with this or not getting along with that was obviously Serena, and the character, of course, being voiced over by a popular celebrity back in the day, and we didn't really see anyone with that sort of energy or that sort of enthusiasm until Sailor Venus came along for her reason behind joining the Sailor Scouts with her talking cat. So we had the friendships between the two talking cats come together in the series, which made the series that much more fun and that much more enjoyable to watch. If not for the introduction of Sailor Venus, I think we can get away with saying that Sailor Moon probably wouldn't have gotten over as much as what it did. Sure, it did get over within the first maybe 20 through 25 episodes. By episode 35, 36, when we saw a Sailor Scout like Sailor Venus join the group of Sailor Scouts, it just got better and it got more enjoyable to watch. And as we saw more villains introduced into the series, the conflicts that ascended between all the Sailor Scouts and disputes, of course, between the Sailor Scouts and the different villains and adversaries they had to face, obviously the series got better over time. And time definitely played a critical role in the development of storylines in this show because we wanted to know what was going to happen from episode to episode. Eventually, we got concluding parts of different episodes where we had the show broken up into maybe 2 or 3 parts until we reached the climax of a special episode of Sailor Moon. So obviously the writers knew they had to put some kind of influencing creative energy behind Sailor Moon to make it better than what it initially was in the first few episodes, probably seasons 1 through 2. By the time we got the special editions of Sailor Moon that were broken up into individual parts, like a lot of series back in the 90s were, like Spider-Man, for instance. Spider-Man used to keep you tuning in every Saturday morning on Fox Kids to find out what was going to happen next from episode to episode, and more episodes than Spider-Man were ever given credit for were broken up into individual parts, and we eventually saw that for something like Sailor Moon. It was almost like the creators wanted to bring the best out of every individual individual Sailor Scout and every individual episode from whatever season of Sailor Moon that you remember as a kid, because that was when this series was popular, was when all of us basically were kids. I know that series was popular probably when I was about 8 or 9 years old, and that's a difference of what, close to over 21, 22 years since Sailor Moon was in its prime and was the #1 animated show in terms of Japanese animation. This show is just as old, if not older, than a show like the Power Rangers, which debuted in 1993. 94, 95 is when Sailor Moon came out and became the award-winning Japanese animation that it eventually amounted to, which was obviously what the creators behind this show wanted the show to get to in terms of a point in the road of their career. And I think they definitely did that with the show off the expansions and the different seasons of the show we saw. Of course, the introduction of individual Sailor Scouts like Sailor Mercury, Sailor Mars, who all had their own individual attitudes and outlooks on being a Sailor Scout, along with their own individual powers and responsibilities of representing their individual planets, whether it be Mars or Jupiter or Venus. It was so fun seeing where this show eventually ended up, and obviously it's still popular to this very day. The popularity of Sailor Moon, without a doubt, still resonates in the minds of every fan of Japanese animation, whoever was a fan of Japanese animation. I was a fan of Japanese animation, probably not a die-hard fan of Japanese animation, but it was something that always caught my attention, something I always made time to put over on this show, of course, over the years, even though Japanese animation still isn't as big today as what it was maybe 20 years ago. What a difference 20 years makes, because we've all went all the way from Japanese animation to shows like Victorious and iCarly and Jessie and Dog with a Blog. I mean, we've had so much change over the last 2 decades, especially. I mean, 20 years ago, what a difference this was. We went from Japanese animation to more live-action shows, and shows that have been recreated, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, now taken under the licensing of Nickelodeon, which is something I never thought would ever happen or amount to for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Of course, that's all changed. SpongeBob SquarePants has obviously changed with its animation and or direction, and now the Power Rangers are being rebooted for the first time in 22 years by 2017. So it's either, we go back in time, or we see the redistribution of all these things like Goosebumps and the Power Rangers, which really there's no need of, because some things are instant classics and some things deserve not to be touched and left alone to be remembered for what they were worth. And I think something like Sailor Moon is something that could be attempted to be recreated. Can you imagine this one? Just a thought here for you guys. Can you imagine this one being turned into a live action, and what could happen if this was turned into a live action? I mean, there would be so much money generated from this being turned into